Hi, period 2. It's Wednesday, and I am off campus today. I am grading some really important tests. So unfortunately, you don't get to have me today. However, you, of course, have these videos and a wonderful sub here in front of you. So hopefully you watched your first video, which was this one right here, the Learn Zillion, describing categorical data. And now we're going to go ahead and go through your 4.2b lesson and answering these questions. So I'm going to do this just basically by going through this answer key that you see here. Okay, so are the following variables quantitative or categorical? And quantitative, just think of the word quantity. That should help. So the gender of babies born at Palomar Hospital in June. What do you think? Is that quantitative or categorical? Does it have to do with the name of something, like the quality or name, or can it be measured or counted? Well, that one is categorical. You see the answer over to this question is the thickness of plastic for various types of water bottles. It's very easy to measure that, so that's why that is quantitative. So you should be writing these down too. And by the way, if you haven't written these definitions, variables that can be counted or measured for quantitative, variables that represent a quality or name for categorical, please do that. You can press pause if you need to. Okay, let's continue for number 1. Part C, favorite ice cream. Again, that's like a quality or name. That would be categorical. Okay, and then the last one, read through it and see what you think before I reveal the answer. The number of pages you can read, that is quantitative because you can clearly count that. Okay, so make sure you have those answers correct and understand why before we go on to the next one. Okay? And now let's just go through this. In the previous section, we summarized and displayed quantitative data using scatter plots. We've done lots of those, and you guys are really good at that. In this section, we'll summarize and display bivariate data, meaning two variable, using a two-way frequency table. A two-way frequency table is two-way because each bivariate data entry is composed of an ordered pair from two categorical random values. Let's see what that means. Okay, long paragraph. I can read this with you. Aria enjoys spending time at the brew with her friends. She feels sad when her friends cannot hang out with her because they have to do chores at home with their parents. Okay, she noticed that it tends to be the same group of friends that have curfews on school nights and also have chores to do at home. Aria wonders, in general, do students at my school who have chores at home also have curfews at night? Aria conducts an experiment and randomly surveys 52 students at her school, asking each student if they have a curfew and if they have household chores. She organizes her findings in a two-way frequency table below. Okay, so have a look what it says here. This is what you guys have, the 26 and 5, the 9 and 12. So they have chores, 26 of them have chores and also a curfew, 9 of them have chores and no curfew. Well, if there's 26 that have a curfew and 9 that have no curfew, together that makes 35, and that's basically just adding those numbers. No chores, 5 here, 12 there, makes a total of 17. Now let's go down the column. You have 26 who have a curfew who have chores, 5 who have a curfew and no chores, for a total of 31. Again, just add these numbers. And the same here for no curfew. 9 that have chores and 12 that don't with no curfew, together that's 21. And then this row and this column should both equal the same number. 31 plus 21 is 52, and 35 and 17 is also 52. Okay? And that always has to work in order for this two-way frequency table to be correct. The columns should add up and the rows should add up. Okay? So again, here's that 52 students that we started with right here, 52. Okay. Now we're going to answer the questions based on this data. Use the table to answer the following. How many students have a curfew and have chores? Have curfew, have chores, 26. That's why this is 26. Read the next one. How many students have no curfew and have chores? Have no curfew and chores, that's 9. That's where that comes from. Okay, next question, part C. How many students have no curfew and no chores? No. The no-nos are 12. You get the pretty easy, just looking at the table. It is also possible to calculate the frequencies for the total column and total row. These frequencies represent the total count of one variable at a time. Okay, and so we actually discussed this, and that's where these two numbers come from. So how many of them have chores total? How many students surveyed have chores? So you got to look at the chores row, and that's 35. How many of the students have a curfew? So you got to look at the curfew column, and that's 31, and that's where these two numbers come from. Okay, let's move on. And that's basically what this is saying here, that you can calculate how many total students there were by adding the total row and column. Okay, add the total row and column, put the number in the bottom left. Does this number match how many he was going to survey? In other words, 52. Does that match the 52 in the total here? And the answer to that, of course, is yes. Okay, here's a little teacher note that you guys, I'm just going to say, that always find the total count to get in the habit. So find the total count. So make sure your rows and columns add up. Okay, next question, number 3. I'll let you read this. Okay, so now, there's lots of stuff going on in here. We got buying tomatoes at the grocery store, growing them in the garden, and what else do we have? We have people who like tomatoes and people who don't. Anything else? Well, let's see. Do you primarily obtain your vegetables at the grocery store, the farmer's market, or home garden? Well, those are the 3 places that we can buy the tomatoes. And then what the other question would be is, do you like tomatoes, yes or no? So now we're going to set up the table. So the grocery store, the farmer's market, the home garden, and the total. So let's see. 50 like tomatoes grocery, farmer's market 4 who like tomatoes, and 12 home. So if we add this up, 50 plus 4 is 54, plus 12, we got a total of 66. Add those up. Don't like tomatoes plus this one, so 34 don't like tomatoes. Okay, now we can just add 50 that like, 30 that don't, 80 total. 4 that like, 1 that don't, 5 total. 12 and 3 is 15. 80 plus 5 is 85, plus 15 is 100, and hopefully 66 plus 34 is 100 also. So clearly we have 100 right here and right here. That needs to match. Okay, let's answer the questions. Fill in the frequency table. We just did that. These rows and columns are filled out correctly. Check to make sure you found them correctly by finding the total. We have confirmed that 100 matches the 100. Okay, and now how many people get their tomatoes at the farmer's market and dislike tomatoes? So farmer's market and dislike tomatoes is 1 person. How many people get their tomatoes from a home garden and like tomatoes? So we're looking for the home garden that like. This column, this row. So 12 should be the answer to that one, which it is. Okay, next question. How many people get their tomatoes from the grocery store? Not like or dislike. The total number who get to the grocery store is the total in this column. That's why this is 80. Okay, how many people like tomatoes? So like tomatoes. That's all of these people, no matter where they get them. 66 is where that answer comes from. Okay? Use the given information to complete a two-way frequency table about the eating habits of 595 students at Copper Ridge Middle School. Okay? So we have 190 male students who eat breakfast regularly out of 320 total males surveyed. So we have 320 total males. Of those 320, 190 eat breakfast regularly. 295 do not eat breakfast regularly. 165 females do not eat breakfast regularly. So we got some information here. All right, so who do we got? We have males and females, and we have people who eat breakfast regularly and people who do not eat breakfast regularly. So you guys see that the male, female, eat and do not eat regularly. All right, so again, you see the answers here, but let's make sure you understand why. So eat breakfast regularly, who are male. right there. That's where that 190 comes from. Okay? How many total males were there? 320. So you wrote that number in, you wrote that number in. Now, it doesn't tell us anything about do not eat breakfast regularly, but if this is the total, 320, and 190 of them eat breakfast regularly, the difference between this number and this number must be the males who don't eat breakfast regularly. In other words, this plus this must equal this. So you subtract 190 from 320, and that's where you get this 130. This is not given in our data. We had to calculate that. And you may want to write that. You may want to write 320 minus 190 equals 130. Okay, 295 students do not eat breakfast regularly. So that's this title, do not eat breakfast regularly, and it doesn't say males or females, it just says students. That number you can just write directly in there. And lastly, 165 females do not eat breakfast regularly. So you can write that in there. So this plus this should equal this. And 130 plus 165 does equal 295. Now, where are all the other numbers coming from? Well, we know that 190 plus 130 equals 320. We know this is 295. So now, where are we going to get the other information? Okay, let's take a look back here, though. We have a total of 595 students. That's all boys, all girls, whether they eat breakfast regularly or not. That is where this number comes from. So 595 comes from the original problem. Okay, now, you should not have these filled out yet, these two values, because you don't know those values. So how are we going to get those? Well, we knew the 295 was this number. This was given to us. 595 is the total number of students, so guess what you do? 595 minus 295 is equal to 300. In other words, this plus this is this. Now, that number you don't have yet, but you can calculate it. Again, this plus this must equal 300. So take 300 and subtract 190, and you get 110. And now your rows and columns should all add up and be filled in. Okay? How many females total were surveyed? All you got to do is look at the total number of females surveyed in this column, and it's 275. How many people surveyed ate breakfast regularly? That's this row, 300. How many people total were surveyed? 595. That was given to us up here, and we can just look at the total. Okay? How many males surveyed do not eat breakfast regularly? So males that don't eat breakfast regularly is this number here, 130. How many female surveys do eat breakfast regularly? So they eat breakfast and they're female. That's that number, 110. What percentage of the total number of people surveyed eat breakfast regularly? So guys, the way we're going to calculate this, the percentage is, as we did the other day, a percentage is just the part over the whole. The part divided by the whole. So let's see. What percentage of the total number of people surveyed eat breakfast regularly? So this is the total, and we want to know how many of them eat breakfast regularly. So that's this number. This part out of this whole, and that's why you're going to see this fraction. This part divided by this gives us a decimal of 0.504. Then you move it twice and make it a percent. Okay? Same thing for the females surveyed. You would have 110 who eat breakfast regularly out of the females. So 110 is the part, 275 is the whole, make that a percent, and that's what you get for the females. And people who eat breakfast regularly are male, quickly, 190 is where the numerator is of this fraction, and the total number of people who eat breakfast regularly is 300, so it's this divided by this times 100, and that's where you get that number. Last one, what percentage of the total number are females who do not eat breakfast? That's 165. Look at your table, divided by the total number of people is 27%. Thanks guys, this video is done. You can replay it if you need to. Have a nice day. I won't actually see you Friday either, believe it or not. Bye.